Walking away from everything you know when you're 5 months pregnant takes a kind of strength most people will never understand. My name is Isabel Grant, and I'm 31 years old. 7 months ago, I stood in the living room of the house I'd helped buy, 5 months pregnant with my first child, and listened to my husband tell me he wanted a divorce. Not because he'd fallen out of love, but because his business partner, the woman he'd been working with for 2 years, was also pregnant. With his child, due 3 weeks before ours. He'd been having an affair for 8 months, got her pregnant while I was trying to get pregnant, and now he wanted me gone so he could play happy family with her instead. His exact words: "Elena understands my work in a way you never did. We're better suited. You'll be fine. You're strong. You'll figure it out." I was 5 months pregnant. I just left my career as a senior marketing director to help him build his startup. I'd invested $70,000 of my savings into his company. I had no job, no income, and he was telling me to just figure it out. I left that night, took my clothes, my laptop, and my dignity, left behind the house, the investments, the company I'd helped build, left with nothing except my car and my unborn daughter. For 6 months, I rebuilt my life from zero, found work, found housing, gave birth alone, built a career bigger than anything I'd had before. And 6 months after he threw me away, after his perfect new life imploded exactly the way I knew it would, he came crawling back, begging, pleading, offering me everything I'd walked away from. But by then, I didn't need any of it, because I'd built something better, something that was actually mine. Before I tell you what I said when he showed up at my door begging, before I tell you about the business I built that destroyed his, before I tell you about the moment he realized he'd made the worst mistake of his life, I need you to do something. If this story is already making your blood boil, if you've ever been thrown away when you were vulnerable, if you've ever rebuilt from nothing and came back stronger, hit that like button right now for every woman who was counted out and proved them all wrong. Subscribe to this channel for stories about women who lost everything and built empires from the ashes, who didn't just survive, they conquered. We're phoenixes here, rising from the flames. Drop a comment. Your city, your country, your comeback story if you have one. I read every single one. We're builders here. Warriors. Unstoppable. Now, let me take you back to the beginning, because to understand how far I fell and how high I climbed back, you need to understand what I had, what I lost, and what I became. Let me tell you about the life I had before everything shattered. I met Ryan Grant 7 years ago. I was 24, working as a marketing manager at a Fortune 500 tech company, making $75,000 a year. Good job, upward trajectory. I was building something. Ryan was 26. He had an idea for a startup, AI-powered customer service software. He was brilliant, passionate, convinced he was going to change the industry. He worked as a software engineer during the day and built his startup at night. We met at a networking event, started dating. Within a year, I was all in. We got married when I was 26. Small ceremony, we were focused on building his dream. I believed in him completely. 2 years into marriage, Ryan's startup was gaining traction. He had a prototype, had initial interest from investors, but he needed help, needed someone who understood marketing, customer acquisition, growth strategy. He asked me to join him full-time, quit my corporate job, and help him build the company. I was making $90,000 by then, senior marketing director. I had stock options, benefits, security. But I believed in him, in us, in what we could build together. I quit, took $70,000 from my savings, money I'd been saving for years, and invested it in the company, became the chief marketing officer of a 2-person startup. For 2 years, I worked 80-hour weeks, built the entire marketing strategy, created the brand, developed the go-to-market plan, generated leads, closed deals, did everything. Ryan handled product development, but he needed help there too. So he hired Elena Vasquez, software engineer, 28 years old. Smart, talented. I thought she was a great addition to the team. The three of us worked together for a year, built the company to 15 employees, got our first major funding round, $1.5 million from a venture capital firm. We were thriving. The company was growing, revenue was climbing. We'd gone from nothing to a legitimate business. Last year, Ryan and I decided to try for a baby. We'd been married 5 years, the company was stable. It felt like the right time. It took 4 months, but I got pregnant. We were thrilled. Ryan seemed thrilled, talking about being a father, planning nurseries. Everything felt perfect. I was 3 months pregnant when I noticed Ryan was spending more time with Elena. Late nights at the office, weekend work sessions, constant texting. I asked him about it once. "Is everything okay? You're spending a lot of time with Elena." He said, "We're in a critical development phase. Stop being insecure. Elena and I work well together, that's all." I trusted him. Why wouldn't I? We'd built this company together. We were partners. We were having a baby. At 4 months pregnant, I started getting morning sickness. Not terrible, but enough that I couldn't work the same 80-hour weeks. I scaled back. Still worked full-time, but more like 50 hours instead of 80. Ryan started making comments. "The company needs you at full capacity. This is a critical time." I said, "I'm pregnant. I'm doing my best." He said, "Elena never complains. She's always available, always working." That should have been my first warning. At 5 months pregnant, I came into the office on a Saturday. I'd forgotten my laptop charger. The office was supposed to be empty. Ryan's car was there. So was Elena's. I went inside, heard voices from the conference room, laughing, intimate. I opened the door. They weren't doing anything obviously incriminating, just sitting close, too close, laptop between them. But the way they looked at each other. I said, "What's going on?" Ryan said, "Just working. What are you doing here?" I said, "Forgot my charger." Elena stood up. "I should go. We can finish this Monday." She left quickly, wouldn't look at me. I said to Ryan, "Are you having an affair?" He said, "Don't be ridiculous. Elena and I are business partners, that's all. Your pregnancy hormones are making you paranoid." Pregnancy hormones? He blamed my intuition on hormones. I wanted to believe him, so I did. 2 weeks later, everything came crashing down. 5 months pregnant. I was showing clearly now, starting to feel the baby move, getting excited, planning the nursery, living in a bubble of happiness despite my nagging suspicions. It was a Tuesday evening. Ryan came home late, again, said he'd been at the office, working on a critical bug. He sat down on the couch, looked at me. His face was different, guilty, resolved. He said, "Isabel, we need to talk." My heart sank. Those words, "we need to talk." Nothing good ever follows. I said, "Okay, what's wrong?" He said, "I don't know how to say this, so I'm just going to say it. I want a divorce." The world stopped. Everything went quiet. I couldn't breathe. I said, "What? Why?" He said, "I'm in love with someone else, Elena. We've been together for 8 months, and she's pregnant. She's due in March. Our baby is due in April." I felt like I'd been hit by a truck. Elena was pregnant with his child, due before ours. I said, 8 months? You've been cheating for 8 months? He said, "I didn't mean for it to happen. We were working together. We connected. It just happened." I said, "I'm 5 months pregnant with your baby, and you're telling me you want a divorce?" He said, "I know the timing's terrible, but I can't keep living a lie. Elena and I want to be together. We want to raise our child together." I said, "What about our child? What about me?" He said, I'll pay child support, obviously, but I can't be with you anymore. Alina understands my work, my vision, in a way you never did. We're better suited. Those words, you never did. Like I hadn't spent 3 years building his company. Like I hadn't invested my savings. Like I hadn't sacrificed my career. I said, I gave up everything for you, for this company. I put $70,000 of my own money into this business. He said, and you'll get it back. We'll work out the finances, but the company is mostly mine. I built the product. You did marketing. It's not the same contribution. I felt rage, pure rage. Not the same contribution? I built everything customer-facing. Every dollar of revenue came through strategies I created. He said, Isabel, you're getting emotional. Let's talk about this rationally. Emotional? Like anger at betrayal isn't rational. I said, when do you want me to leave? He said, I think it's best if you move out this week. Elena's moving in. We want to start our life together before the baby comes. She was moving into our house, the house I'd helped pay for, the house where I'd lived for 3 years. I said, this week? Where am I supposed to go? I'm 5 months pregnant. I have no job. He said, you're strong. You're capable. You'll figure it out. You always do. That was it. The man I'd loved, the man I'd sacrificed everything for, the man whose child I was carrying, telling me to just figure it out. I said, I need time. I need to find a place, find work. He said, you have 1 week. Elena's lease ends Friday. 1 week to pack up my life, to find somewhere to live, to figure out how to survive while 5 months pregnant with no income. I left the room, went upstairs, started packing. I could hear him on the phone with Elena. She took it better than I expected. She'll be gone by the weekend. Better than expected. Like I was supposed to throw a tantrum. Like my devastation was something to be managed. I packed everything I owned. Clothes, books, personal items, my laptop, documents. I left everything else. The furniture, the kitchen items, the photos, the life we'd built. I left with 2 suitcases, my computer, and my car. That's it. I had $3,000 in my checking account. My savings were gone, invested in his company. I was 5 months pregnant with nowhere to go. That first night, I stayed in a cheap motel. $60 a night. Cried until I couldn't cry anymore. Then I got strategic. I called my best friend, Maya, told her everything. She said, come stay with me. I have a spare room. Stay as long as you need. I moved into Maya's spare room, started figuring out my next move. First priority, income. I was 5 months pregnant. No one was going to hire a pregnant woman for a full-time role. I knew that. So I went freelance, updated my LinkedIn, reached out to every contact I had, offered marketing consulting, strategy, fractional CMO services. Within 2 weeks, I had 3 clients, small startups, paying me $5,000 a month combined. Not much, but enough. I worked from Maya's house, took client calls, built strategies, executed campaigns, all while 5 months pregnant and dealing with the emotional devastation of betrayal. Second priority, legal protection. I consulted with a lawyer about the company, about my $70,000 investment. The lawyer, Sarah Kim, reviewed the documents. Isabel, you invested as an individual, not as part of a marital asset. That money is yours. You're entitled to equity in the company based on your investment. I said, he said I'd get the money back, but not equity. She said, that's not how it works. You invested $70,000 in a company now valued at over $5 million after the funding round. Your investment is worth significant equity, probably about 8%. 8% of a $5 million company, $400,000. Sarah said, "We need to file a claim. Protect your investment." I said, "Do it." We filed. Ryan was furious, called me screaming, "You're trying to destroy the company. This is vindictive." I said, "I'm protecting my investment, the $70,000 I gave you that I earned that you're trying to steal." He said, "We don't have that cash. It's all in the company." I said, "Then I'll take equity. See you in court." I hung up. Third priority, preparation for the baby. I was 6 months pregnant now, working full-time as a freelance consultant, living in my friend's spare room, saving every penny. I found a small one-bedroom apartment, $700 a month. Not much, but mine. I signed a lease, moved in at 7 months pregnant, bought used baby furniture, crib, changing table, clothes from consignment shops, built a nursery in the corner of my bedroom. Maya threw me a small baby shower, just close friends. They brought gifts, diapers, essentials. I cried, not from sadness, from gratitude that I had people who showed up when my husband hadn't. At 8 months pregnant, my freelance work exploded. Word of mouth spread. I was good at what I did. 3 clients became 6, then 10. I was making $15,000 a month, more than I'd made at my old corporate job. I hired a contractor to help with execution, then another, built a small team, started operating as a real agency. At 38 weeks pregnant, I went into labor. Natural birth, 14 hours, painful but manageable. Maya was my birth partner. My parents flew in from Ohio, but I did it without Ryan, without the man who should have been there. My daughter Sophia was born at 4:23 a.m., 7 pounds, 3 ounces. Perfect. Beautiful. Mine. Ryan didn't come to the hospital. Didn't call. Nothing. I found out later Elena had given birth 2 weeks earlier. He was busy with his new family. For the first 6 weeks, I focused on Sophia, on healing, on bonding. Maya helped with night shifts. My parents stayed for 2 weeks. Then I went back to work. Part-time at first, then full-time. Sophia came with me to client meetings in a carrier. Clients loved it, humanized me, made me relatable. At 4 months, I incorporated, officially became an LLC, Grant Marketing Solutions, kept my married name because it was my professional brand. At 5 months, I landed my first major client, a tech startup that needed a full rebrand and go-to-market strategy. They paid me $50,000 for the project. That's when I realized I'd done it. I'd rebuilt from nothing, while pregnant, while raising a newborn, while dealing with betrayal that would have destroyed most people. I wasn't just surviving, I was thriving. 6 months after I left, I heard through mutual contacts that Ryan's company was struggling. Turns out, losing your CMO and the person who understood customer acquisition has consequences. Revenue had flatlined. They'd lost 3 major clients. The VC firm that invested was getting nervous, asking hard questions about growth strategy. Elena, brilliant as she was at software engineering, had no idea how to do marketing. Ryan tried to hire someone to replace me, went through 3 people in 4 months. None could replicate what I'd built. Their burn rate was high, their revenue was stagnant. They were in trouble. Then I heard something else. Elena and Ryan were fighting, constantly. The stress of a newborn plus a failing company was destroying their relationship. Apparently, Elena had thought being with Ryan meant being with successful Ryan. The failing founder version was not what she'd signed up for. She had also discovered, surprise, that Ryan was not a great partner when things got hard, that he blamed others instead of taking responsibility, that he was dismissive and condescending when stressed. All the things I'd tolerated because I loved him, all the things she was now experiencing without the foundation of years of partnership. I didn't feel schadenfreude, not exactly. I felt validated. Everything I'd predicted was coming true. Then, 6 months and 2 weeks after he'd thrown me out, Ryan called me. I almost didn't answer. Unknown number, but something made me pick up. "Isabel, it's Ryan. Please don't hang up." I said, "Nothing." Just waited. He said, "I need to talk to you. Can we meet? Coffee? Somewhere neutral?" I said, "Why?" He said, "Because I made a mistake, a huge mistake, and I need to talk to you about it." I said, "I'm listening." He said, "Not over the phone, please, just coffee. 1 hour, that's all I'm asking." Against my better judgment, I agreed. "Tomorrow, 3 p.m., the coffee shop on 5th. He said, "Thank you. I'll be there." I hung up. Called Maya. "Ryan wants to meet." She said, "Why?" I said, "He says he made a mistake." She said, "Of course he did. His company is failing and his girlfriend is..." We sat down. He ordered coffee, didn't touch it. He said, "You look amazing." I said, "Thank you. What did you want to talk about?" He said, "I made a terrible mistake. Letting you go, leaving you, all of it. Worst decision of my life." I said, "Okay." He said, "Elena and I broke up. Last week. She left, took our son, moved back to California, said I wasn't the man she thought I was." I said nothing, just listened. He said, "The company is failing. We've lost clients. Revenue was down 60%. The VC firm is threatening to pull funding. I can't do this without you. I built the product, but you built everything else." There it was. He didn't miss me. He missed what I did for the company. He said, "I'm asking you to come back as CMO, 50% equity, whatever you want. I need you. The company needs you." I said, "You want me to come back and save your failing company after you threw me out while I was pregnant?" He said, "I know how it sounds, but we were good together. We built something amazing. We can do it again." I said, "We, Ryan? I built the marketing, the brand, the customer base. You built a product. That's not the same thing." He said, "You're right. You were essential. I see that now. I was wrong to minimize your contribution. Please come back. I'll make it right." I looked at Ryan across the table, the man I'd loved, the man I'd sacrificed everything for, the man who'd thrown me away when I was vulnerable. Now he was the vulnerable one, and he wanted me to save him. I said, "Ryan, I'm going to tell you what I've been doing for the last 6 months." He looked confused. "Okay." I said, "I left your house with $3,000. No job, no income, 5 months pregnant. You told me to figure it out." He looked down. "I know, that was wrong." I said, "So I figured it out. I went freelance, started consulting. Within 2 weeks, I had 3 clients. Within 2 months, I had 10. Within 4 months, I had 15. His eyes widened. "You have 15 clients?" I said, "Had, past tense. I have 23 clients now. I incorporated, built a team. I'm running a full marketing agency. We're grossing $40,000 a month. I'm on track to hit $500,000 in revenue by year end." He looked stunned. $500,000? I said, "From nothing, while pregnant, while giving birth, while raising an infant alone, because I figured it out." I pulled out my phone, showed him my website, my client list, companies he recognized. I said, "Do you see this client? The one paying me $10,000 a month? They were considering working with your company. They chose me instead, because I'm better." His face went white. "You're competing with us?" I said, "I'm not competing with you. I'm beating you. 3 of your former clients are now my clients. They left because you couldn't deliver what I used to deliver for them." I pulled out another document. "Also, remember that legal claim I filed for my $70,000 investment? The judge ruled in my favor. I own 8% of your company, and based on the valuation at the time of investment, you owe me $400,000. He said, "We don't have that money." I said, "I know. So we're working out a payment plan. You'll be paying me for the next 5 years with interest. He put his head in his hands. Isabel, please, don't destroy me. I made a mistake. I'm sorry. Come back. Help me fix this. We can be partners again. I said, partners? Ryan, you were never my partner. You were my boss who occasionally let me have input. You minimized my contributions, told me I was just doing marketing while you built the real product. You made me feel small. Then you threw me away. He said, I was wrong about all of it. You were the backbone of that company. I see that now. I said, you see it now because it's falling apart without me, not because you actually value me. He said, that's not fair. I said, fair? You want to talk about fair? You cheated on me for 8 months, got another woman pregnant while I was trying to get pregnant, asked for a divorce when I was 5 months pregnant, gave me 1 week to leave, told me to figure it out, and now you want to talk about fair? He said, I'll do anything. Come back to the company. Come back to me. We can be a family. You, me, Sophia. I want to meet my daughter. That's when I knew. He didn't just want me back for the company. He'd lost Elena, lost his son, realized he'd destroyed his family for nothing. I said, Ryan, you've never even asked about Sophia, not once in 6 months. You didn't call when she was born, didn't send a gift, nothing. You have no right to suddenly want to be her father. He said, I was overwhelmed with my son, with the company. I handled it badly, but I want to be in her life now. I said, then you can file for visitation rights through the court, pay your child support, which you're 3 months behind on, by the way, and maybe eventually you'll get supervised visits. He said, that's cruel. I said, that's consequence. You made choices. This is the result. He said, what about the company? Will you help? I said, no. I built my own company. Better, stronger, actually mine. He said, so that's it? You're just going to let me crash and burn? I said, Ryan, I didn't let you do anything. You crashed and burned on your own. You chose Elena. You chose to throw me away. You chose to prioritize your ego over your business. Those were your choices. I stood up. My choice is to keep building what I built, to keep being successful, to raise my daughter to know her worth, to never, ever let a man make her feel small. He said, Isabel, please. I said, I hope you figure it out, Ryan. You're strong, you're capable, you'll be fine. I used his own words, the ones he'd said to me when he threw me out. His face crumpled. He knew. I said, goodbye, Ryan. I walked out, got in my car, drove back to my apartment where my daughter was napping, and I didn't look back. That was 2 months ago. Ryan's company failed completely. The VC firm pulled their funding, they shut down operations last month, laid off 15 employees. Ryan is now working as a software engineer at someone else's company, making $80,000 a year, living in a 1-bedroom apartment, paying me child support, and repaying my debt to me. Elena is in California. From what I hear, she wants nothing to do with him. He sees his son twice a month, supervised visits. Meanwhile, my agency just hit $50,000 a month in revenue. I have 32 clients, a team of 12 people. I'm hiring a COO next month. I moved into a 3-bedroom house. 1 room for me, 1 for Sophia, 1 for my home office. Sophia is 8 months old now. Happy, healthy, growing perfectly. She has no idea her father exists. When she's older, I'll tell her the truth, that her father made choices, and those choices had consequences. Ryan has tried to contact me 3 more times, each time asking for help, for money, for another chance. I haven't responded. There's nothing left to say. People ask me if I'm angry, if I'm bitter, if I hate him. I don't. I'm grateful, because being thrown away forced me to rebuild, forced me to discover I was capable of more than I'd ever imagined. I didn't need his company. I built my own.
better, stronger, actually mine. I'm Isabel Grant. I was pregnant and betrayed, left with nothing, rebuilt from zero while raising an infant alone. 6 months later, he begged me to come back and save him. I said no, because I'd already saved myself. Subscribe for stories about women who lost everything and built empires from the ashes, who didn't just survive betrayal, they conquered because of it. Hit like if you believe the best revenge is massive success. Comment if you ever rebuilt from nothing and came back stronger. Remember, being thrown away isn't the end. Sometimes it's the beginning of discovering you never needed them in the first place.